Good morning. It is Good Friday, and in the midst of all that is going on, I know a lot of people are struggling to be positive, myself included, but it is Good Friday, and Sunday is Easter. When something like this happens, obviously a rare thing, but when things occur in your life that give you time to pause and slow down, at least for me, I tend to look at things maybe a little bit more purposely, with a more of a purpose, and for this weekend, I'm giving thanks. God is good. Christ died. He is risen. I'm not trying to force my religion and my faith. I don't consider myself a religious person. I am a person of faith, and I do believe that Christ died for our sins. I'm going to rejoice in that, and if you would like to as well, I encourage you to do so. Whatever you believe in, I hope that it's full of love, and I hope it's full of empathy for your fellow man, and that you guys are out there taking care of each other. Today, I was reading, just thumbing through Facebook. I find myself doing that throughout the day, just kind of checking aimlessly. And William Wong, whom you should follow if you're part of physical culture, posted about the sudden passing of Eric Fiorillo. And for those of you that don't know who Eric was, he is someone that I did the Fiorillo Barbell, and he had a podcast. All of a sudden, my head, I can't remember what it was called, so I apologize for that. Motivation and Muscle, I believe. And I honestly cannot recall how Eric and I met or how we knew each other, but he and I always hit it off really well. And the guy was so passionate about all things strength, but especially strongman type stuff, and especially the Husafell stone. So I encourage you to do some research on him and listen to, he did a ton of podcasts, and was always very kind to me and always very supportive of the things that I did. Eric had me one time write a blog for the website, and I kind of wanted to make the tone of today's video log about that. He asked me if I had any regrets in my career. Now, I will tell you, I made decisions that were based on my career that came with a price. I think it probably cost me a few relationships, and that's okay. I think I think sometimes that's what happens when somebody is very driven and the other person doesn't get it. That doesn't make them wrong and me right, or vice versa. It's just not a fit. But it was still a price that I paid. But I don't have a regret. I feel bad that I didn't do my part in the relationship, but I don't have a regret, for better or for worse. When I came up in the sport, everybody was in equipment, so I never tried to bench 500 pounds raw. Most I ever tried was 465, which I hit, and I used to do my last warm-up at 455 before I got in a shirt. So I think there was a period of time that probably I could have benched 500, but I honestly didn't care, because I was all about chasing a 700-plus pound bench in a shirt and totaling 2,400. So I didn't care. Now, I hate that I didn't try it, but do I regret it? I don't regret it. I did what I did based on the goals that I had. Here is what I regret, though. I was so focused in my career and with all the training that I loved the training. I loved the pursuit and the day-to-day grind of doing, I did a lot of the same things over and over and over. As a musician in a previous time in my life, I would play scale after scale after scale, trying to become more adept, more fluid with my fingerings and stuff like that. I just wanted to be as good as I possibly could be and not be limited. And so that took hours and hours of practice and training, and I loved it. I enjoyed. I would get off work. I worked at Burger King when I was like 19 years old, and I would get off work after closing, and because I didn't want to turn my amp on, I would literally go outside across the street from where I lived, and there was a ditch and a bank, and I would sit there for an hour at night and just play scales on the bass. I could hear the bass, but it didn't interrupt anybody, and that's what I did. That's what it took. The same principle applied, to my training, and I would squat every week. I'd do a competition squat every week without fail, and I loved that. But I would put so much pressure on myself to perform well, not only because I wanted to perform well, but I thought people wouldn't take me serious if I didn't hit PRs, if I didn't hit this huge total. And what that culminated into is that I remember this vividly. I competed at, I guess it was the SPF state meet in 2005. And I believe I went 7 for 9, and I broke over 900 pounds in the squat. I benched over 600, and I deadlifted, I don't remember. It was the first meet that I fully committed, and I competed using a hook grip, and I never looked back from that moment with the hook grip. But I hit a big PR total. I don't remember now what it was. It was in the 2200s, and at the time was a big total. And I had a close miss at 955 or 950 in the squat, and I don't remember, it was something in the 600s on bench, and at the time that was a big bench. I'll never forget, we spent the night and we were leaving the next day, and my son Wesley was riding with me, and he said, "Man, you just got to be so happy about your lifting. What do you think?" And I was so negative. Yeah, I missed that squat and that bench, and so as opposed to enjoying the fruits of my labor, hitting the 900 or the 905, I can't remember specifically, all those lifts were meet PRs. All 3 lifts total, at the time that may have been the biggest total in the SPF before the West Side guys came along and killed it all. But I couldn't celebrate and take time to enjoy it. I had put so much pressure on myself. All I could think about was getting back in the gym. And so what I want to share with you today is every day, every time we wake up and we get the opportunity, to train, it's a blessing. When we get to wake up on the better side of the green, it's a blessing. And that's really what I want for you guys to focus on, especially this weekend. And I know it's a tough time, and I will be the first to admit I am all over the map, and I get so frustrated. I was chatting with Corey Jean online last night, and she asked me how I was doing, and I will admit, at that moment, I was sad. I had read a couple of things online that that made me hurt for a couple of people. I won't go into, but I was just really sad. And you hear so many different things on the news. You don't know what is accurate. You don't know what to believe, and it's just a really unprecedented and a very difficult time for so many people. And I will admit, I'm afraid at times, and other times I feel like I'm being really resilient, and I get really frustrated with that. And I told Corey in so many words that, and I came back a few minutes later and apologized. I mean, that team in the gym, they depend on me to lead, and what I think has been a hallmark of my career is leading by example, of of grinding through when things aren't going well, when things ebb and flow, and it's your turn to have ebb times. You just keep grinding, you keep studying, you keep digging in, you find ways to persevere and to improve no matter what. And I'm not doing a great job, I've done everything I know how to do to help people that have to train at home, and I've loaned out equipment. I've leased out some to some other coaches, clients, and I've done everything I know how to do, to make this as good as I can for the entire team, and it's heartbreaking. It's one of those things where I miss my people. These are the people that I spend, other than my work family, I spend the majority of my time with these people. We've had, people with relationships and babies and getting married, and, all the, I have relationships with their children, and, their artwork is hanging up in my house, and I, there is none of that right now, and it is very, very difficult, and it's very hard to stay positive, and it's hard right now to be motivated. I don't, and I've got a back injury in the middle of all this that I didn't do lifting. I did it working on a bathtub, which is even more frustrating, and it's just one of those things where you just got to take a step back from it and take a breath. And this is where I've got to have faith, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I can only control what I can control, but it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay not to know, but it's never a bad time to pray. It's never a bad time to reach out to people. I try to check on people multiple times, and I don't get a cookie for that. I'm just trying to do the very best that I can. Checking on people and hearing from them is good for my soul as well. So, and like the other night, Jennifer and I were live on USA Powerlifting Instagram, and that was fun, and I hope we get to do some more stuff like that. And it was so typical Jennifer and I. She messaged me if I was ready to go on live and if I had a beer, and of course I did, and of course she did as well. And so there's the simple joy of chatting about, one of the things that we love and having a beer, and that's something we do quite frequently at the Ogre compound. We are blessed enough that our house a lot of time is the after party for meets, whether it be one that is being ran or one that they've competed at. And we have a New Year's Eve bash, and we have a lot of get-togethers, and none of that is happening right now. And right now the weather, it's a little brisk, but it is just absolutely beautiful right now. And you can't get together, you can't have a cookout, and so those things are hard. So I guess what I'm trying to point to, I woke up this morning, I went downstairs and I watched Melissa deadlift a little bit. I painted a little bit in the addition. I did some chore, working on things, trying to become more organized and use that new space efficiently. It's slow going because I am still working, thankfully. I don't know how much longer that will last, but I'm also doing some work for some friends of mine that have construction going on. So I am staying busy. I don't deny that I am not struggling with being efficient with my time. I would be lying to you if I said otherwise. But I'm very blessed, and I got a text from one of my coworkers that I supervise, and she was just checking in on me. Couldn't wait to see me again, and just sending her blessings. And I mean, isn't that what it's really all about? I mean, I think that's cool. I think that's a great thing. So make sure that when you're doing all these things, when we're training and taking it seriously, that you do it for the love of it and because you enjoy it and understand what it's all about. So I'll close with saying, have a good Friday, good Friday. Happy Easter. He is risen, and God bless.